we can make the spiritual awakening path an absolute hellhole for ourselves. At least our egoic form of identity can. Now, the ego knows that the spiritual journey is going to be the death of it. Not that the ego is a real thing and not that it actually exists as this physical thing. But you get what I mean. It knows that the spiritual journey is the end for it, the death of the ego. So the ego will start putting roadblocks in front of our journey so that we don't take the journey that it knows will end in its demise. I've found 6 things in my life that I repeatedly do to make this journey a lot more difficult than it needs to be. So I'm going to share them with you so that you don't have to go through it too. The first way that we make the spiritual awakening process so much harder for ourselves than it needs to be is that we don't trust the process. Life knows what you want from life. But let's say it another way. You know what you want from life, right? It's so clear in your mind exactly what you want, how you want things. And of course, this is infinite intelligence that's coming through us as we go through this spiritual awakening. We awaken more of that infinite intelligence, this feeling sense inside. Don't you believe that that knows where you want to go? Don't you believe, though it feels difficult sometimes, that life is guiding you there to that thing or the things that you really want in life? I know in my journey that sometimes I forget that life knows what it's doing, you know? Life has the power to create worlds and the power to create you. It created you, all aspects of you. And therefore, don't you feel that it could definitely satisfy these wants, these needs that are coming through the you that the universe created? We're not separate from the universe, and it's trying to help us get to where we want to go. It's so kind. And it requires sometimes a bit of inner work, a bit of spiritual journeying, a bit of sadhana. And if you don't have any sadhana, you're more than welcome to sign up for the stuff below on the one-to-one coaching or the free breathing practice down below. It knows where you want to go, and it requires sometimes for us to take up some daily practices, some sadhana, to reveal to us, it's the path of least resistance, to reveal to us the path of least resistance that we need to take to get there. Yes, it might bring things up that we don't particularly like dealing with, but they're ours to deal with because we've been brats most of our life. We've not followed our path of least resistance. We've created anger inside of ourselves and created tantrums and constant progression of this over time has created a really quite a negative state of being that seems to always constantly be on. But of course we do the sadhana and we retrain ourselves, we retrain our minds, and then life can guide us like a river flowing into the sea. 2. You're fighting against it. Now let's take the analogy that we used before. Life knows where you want to go, and it's brought about a spiritual awakening inside of you to take you there. We can then fight against where it's taking us, because what we can't see from our physical standpoint sometimes is that pain inside of ourselves, like emotional pain, trauma, is the thing that's holding us back from getting to where we need to be. And when we've done enough work, enough of the sadhana, enough of the breathing practice, pranayamas, yoga, etc., to release the subconscious mind's grip on these things, they come to the surface, don't they? Old fears, old traumas, old wounds, old tendencies. And we almost feel like, oh my God, I'm getting worse on this journey. More things are coming up in front of me to deal with. And that is kind of, in a sense, true. You are getting worse in the moment, but from the physical standpoint, from this physical perspective, we have our blinkers on, don't we? Because this stuff is coming up to be healed. Once this stuff is healed, what is stopping you from getting what you want? Because this stuff isn't healed, we have insecurities, and we lash out at people through our insecurities, and therefore we don't get what we want most of the time. And thank God we don't. Life's teaching us to be strong, but life's also teaching us that life is kind and that it's trying to heal us so long as we let go of our grip and let these things be and really begin that healing process. And again, if you're going through a healing process and you don't have anybody to speak to about it, that's fine. Then down below there's a free community that you're more than welcome to sign up for. We've made about I've made it with you in mind. There's about 600 members in there now, and there are some really fantastic people that just give, and are constantly sharing and helping in there, and I just think it's a beautiful support structure. But don't believe me, come and join in and find out for yourself. Number 3. The third thing that you might be doing to make this spiritual awakening harder than it needs to be, and this is a strange one, is reading too much. I remember when I was in the dark night of the soul, in the real depths of it, like the dirty, mucky, horrible stuff, you know, the really horrible emotions that felt unconscious at first, but we realise they aren't. Regardless, when I was in the dark night of the soul, I used to go on Google and have a little look. Oh, what is the dark night of the soul? How long does it last? How many dark nights of the soul are there? And I used to read these things, and they'd be different. A lot of it actually very mismatchy information. But sometimes my ego would grab hold of a really negative one. Oh, there's 4 dark nights of the soul that you must go through in this life experience. And then I'd project that fear into the future. Oh my God, well, I'm hating this experience, my dark night of the soul. I can't do 3 more of them. What's the point in living? And in projecting all of that fear into the future, which isn't actually the way that we experience it anyway, we don't experience our whole life through the lens of fear. It just doesn't work like that. I was creating a negative state of being in myself now, and therefore making my now moment harder than it need to be by projecting that fear of 4, 5, 7 dark nights of the soul into the future. Life, one, isn't experienced through fear. We know that. Can be experienced that way if we create that fear inside of us, but as our natural lens is well-being. I mean, connect to the feeling of your body. Oh, this is neutral. Okay, well, you know, that's not fear, is it? It's this neutrality, and the longer we spend in that neutrality, the more joyful and blissful and electric this feeling of our state of being becomes. 4. This is so key. I think this is the best. I was meditating earlier, and this just dropped in, and I thought, oh gosh, that's so key. That's it was almost a new thought for me, which I love. And it came in, and it says, the thought came in and said, the 4th biggest thing that we do in our journey to scupper our chances, to create hell on earth for ourselves right now, is we don't believe in our personal power to create the life that we want. We sometimes blame the awakening journey, and it feels like we're losing control. Oh, I'm losing control of our life. And that's giving away our personal power, isn't it, to the Kundalini or to the spiritual awakening journey. Oh, I'm losing control. Life is taking me on a journey that I don't want to go on. That's blame, and that is getting rid of our personal power and saying, screw you, life, you have my personal power and take me on this journey that's, you know, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. But that isn't true surrender, is it? True surrender is an active participation in the process of this spiritual awakening. Having our personal power seated here and not in the blame of life for the experience that it's creating for us means that we are co-creating with our life, and we might be making a hell of that if we don't believe that our personal power has a say in this life that we're creating. You're not just going to be this weird spiritual person. What does that even mean? That's more identity crap anyway, isn't it? Sorry, probably shouldn't swear, but you know, life goes on. If we don't believe that we have the personal power to create the life that we want, then we tend to give it away to life. It's almost like we are allowing life to take the reins and then letting life happen by accident, so that when things go wrong, we get to blame. And this is all ego, and it's not very empowering. I only know this from my journey. Really disempowered state to be in. Because when we see how powerful we truly are, and that we can create, and that we do create our own reality, like I'm doing here, then life gets really fun, because it's us that's in control. All right, not in control of everything, but we can do a hell of a lot, so long as we don't abstain and give our power away to life. 5. You care too much about what other people think about you. And I get it. This is something that I've always flirted with in my life. Always cared so much about what people think, as if the validation for my own self comes from others. But that's like giving away the keys to your house, isn't it? People can then get into your house, meaning your body, or can affect you negatively just by saying something. You've given all of your power away, like I mentioned in the last thing. when we care, where do I want to go with this? Do we need to care? Truly, let's ask ourselves, do we need to care what other people think? Well, can we control what other people think? No, we can't. So, if people think wrongly against us, or think unfair things about us, or judge us, can we control that? I like to think that I can, but no, I can't. So is my well-being and my good feeling in my control? Well, if I let other people determine how I feel based upon how they feel about me, then no, it's not in my control. I've given my potential for happiness to things that I can't control. And there's one thing in this awakening journey that hopefully we're learning, and that might take a bit of a process to learn by getting hurt a lot by others, is that our happiness is totally and fully in our control. We just got to stop giving the keys away to nasty rapscallions, I don't even know if that's a word, that don't have our best interests at heart, and nor should they. They've got their best interests at heart. This is a journey about becoming selfish, in a sense, because we want to serve others, but we can't serve others if we're not full up in ourselves, if we're not full of ourselves, in a sense, you know? 6, and this is the final one, and I think I've kind of touched on it already. The 6th thing that will make your spiritual awakening a lot harder than it needs to be is if you project your fear into the future. Let's say right now we're going through the dark night of the soul, or we're going through a patch of vulnerability in our life and we don't like it. We can have this Armageddon mindset, can't we? That I'm going to be like this forever. I'm going to feel like this forever. This life is worthless. And that's just not true. Just like summer comes, winter comes, dark night of the soul. But just like winter comes, there's that spring moment, isn't there, where life comes back in. Projecting fear into the future, one, is based upon a shaky assumption anyway that life will be like this forever, and it certainly won't be. It might stay like that for longer than you need to if you don't do the sadhana, and if you don't do anything. You know, we in this existence is a physical existence. If we want to get out of the rut that we're in, we have to take action, right? Yes, inspired action, but action nonetheless. If we don't take that action, we don't move on. Regardless, I'm going a little bit off topic. Projecting fear into the future will cause pain now, because it's like, well, I'm going to be this way then. That's it. Let's give up. And no wonder people, end their life if they're doing that, because they believe that their life will genuinely be unchangeable. I'm going to feel like this forever, but these things life doesn't work that way. There's a nice saying that my teacher used to say to me when I was going through the dark night of the soul and going through the pain of it, and it's, this too shall pass. And that's difficult to hear when you're going through it. Oh, Jamie, you don't know what my pain is like. But everybody believes that they're going through the most painful experience. Oh, why can't I just be someone else? Why does my life have to be the hardest? Everybody thinks that. And the pain that you will be going through will not continue throughout your life. Projecting that into the future and then robbing yourself of your joyful future, or at least joyful projection of your future now, is daylight robbery, and is such a shame because it's not needed.